string, watch me. I did not hit that on purpose, but he shot one yesterday too. Some of you guys have exploders back there. You might get a boom when you're fucking putting rounds to the target, which is hilarious. All right, so watching me, how much recoil control did I just demonstrate to you? All right, man, so we're gonna work some positional stuff this morning. We're gonna start with low ready and just working the gun. Ready position is just the position I'm going to use to be ready to do something. Does that make sense? It's not something like in space and time. And I hear guys say, you know, super low ready, dance around the pole, low ready, kind of half-ass low ready, something low ready, this, that, the other thing. For purposes of the data that we're going to obtain today, the base of the target board will be the fucking low ready that you're going to use, right? For me, low ready is whatever the distance required. I'm going to drop it enough where I could see his hands. Everybody tracking? So if he is within 1 inch of me, then obviously my low ready would be down here. If he was all the fuck way back there, I could probably just barely drop it, look over the top, and still see his fucking hands. So it changes as the environment changes. If I'm doing building clearing, that type of bullshit, all that shit's going to come up. All tracking on that crap. All right, so first thing we're gonna do, man, is work a little bit of some recoil control shit. We got to be able to control the gun, right, and keep it from bouncing around, doing a bunch of weird shit in the shoulder. And so there's a couple of things that I want you to consider here, right? And that we don't have the time in the class here. My preference would be, if you have lights and all that kind of bullshit out the end of your gun, I would strip all of that shit off your rifle to start out with, to include any vert grips or hand stops or any of that kind of shit. And we're just gonna see where you hang onto the gun that gives you the best recoil control. Everybody with me? Once we've established that, then we'll put the bits and pieces back on your rails and where your hand normally sits for best recoil control, and then we'll work from there. All tracking? This should be going in a spot that you intentionally fucking figured out was the best way to control the gun. All tracking on that stuff? All right, so a couple of things, man, that you'll end up seeing. Number one is this shit going on right here, right where the stock is being collapsed all the way down. I'll see you guys run their guns in this fashion. You obviously have a bunch of different fucking positions in here that you can be setting up and doing that kind of bullshit. So the first thing that I think we got to figure out, man, is what is the length of pull specific to me. And the way that you're going to establish length of pull is put your stock at a certain distance. Your arm would be horizontal to the deck. The stock is touching me, and I can still reach up and get all my controls and do all my bullshit. This is not 90 degrees to the ground. This is not 90 degrees to the ground. The upper arm is now 90 degrees to the ground. My stock should sit on there, and I should be able to grab everything. Everybody remember that crap? If you haven't done that before, you might try it out. Guys will tell me, well, I got armor on, so I need to come in a click. If you're putting your gun on top of your armor, then you probably need to get a different type of armor, right? So with my heavy vest, with plates in and all that kind of bullshit, this was still touching fucking meat. Does that make sense? Just the way I held the gun on my body. So this stayed fucking exact. Now, if you got 1 inch fucking plates or some bullshit and that's where your stock is sitting on generally, then you might come in a click because you'll still have the same length of pull by the time the fucking armor comes in and affects it. All good to go with that shit? We'll get out of your way real quick. And everybody just check your own length of pull real quick, kind of see where it's at. I don't want you to make adjustments yet. I just want you to see if where your stock was configured, is it ready to go for the proper length of pull, or is it a little bit too long, a little bit too short? Muzzles down, keep stepping in front again. We there? All right, so that's a thing. I am running a Voltor A5 buffer system in this, right? So I have a rifle length buffer tube, all that kind of shit. You'll see if I try to collapse mine as far as it'll go, I end up with about another inch that you could collapse on a carbine based stock system. I am not a super tall man, right? And I run this thing completely all the way out because I want to get leverage on the gun. Everybody with me here? On my hand position on the forward side, you see all my shit is all the way the fuck out here. This is a 14.5 inch pinned gun because I don't want to deal with ATF bullshit out there. So it's a really long gun, but the side effect is that I can get my hand way the fuck out there. The further I get the gun away from me, the more leverage and the ability to pull on the gun is what I'm gonna have. Everybody tracking on that shit? I know that that is true, and the reason I know it is true, if he and I are about to have a tug-of-war contest, and in the middle of us is the obligatory pool of lava and piranhas and alligators and human shit and all that kind of crap, and we're both gonna try to pull each other into this pool. Get ready to get your rope in your hands. All right, so me and you're gonna be about to say, hey man, get ready to start pulling. You ready like that? You're sure? You're gonna start like that? Yeah, so in most cases you might want to get out here, because if he's got his arms that tight to him, what muscles is he using to help pull that rope at this point? What's that? Back. Probably more bicep, right? So if he gets way out here, now I get both bicep and back and shoulders to help me pull this thing. I'm obviously gonna throw some hips into it, all that kind of bullshit, and he would probably get much more success trying to keep me or pull me into the pool if he did that versus started like this. Does that make sense? So I want to get as far away from the shit as I possibly can. So my crap is mounted all the way forward. My stock gets open way up because this hand's gonna be hanging onto the pistol grip. The further I get away, the more I get to employ the back muscles to help pull it into me. Everybody tracking on that concept? If I had a pistol right now and I grabbed it and the back strap of my pistol was sticking this high above my hand, how many of you guys would tell me that's fucked up, bro? You need to sink that pistol down in your hand a little bit more. Everybody, how come? Where shit's happening, right? So the higher you can get to it, the more you're gonna be able to control that thing, this, that, anything. With a semi-automatic pistol, if the gun would operate and I put my hand directly behind the slide, would I get better recoil control? Of course I would, right? So with the rifle, where's all that action happening? Everybody with me? But I'll watch guys mount their shit and they only put this much of the stock on their fucking body, this much of it is hanging above the body. It's the functional equivalent of grabbing a pistol with a shitty fucking grip. Everything's happening up here, but you don't got any meat to help you resist it. Does that make sense? There's another chunk of leverage in this shit. If I designed a vest that you put on and then I could put a 2x2 stick on it, came up higher on the stick, right? It's 8 feet long as an example, but it's attached to you now physically with this little device. If I went to the top and tried to push you backwards, that would be easier to do than if I came all the way down where it's close to your shoulder and tried to push you backwards. Does that make sense? By allowing this thing to be up, I'll see guys when we start running the guns hard and fast, it wants to ratchet them back during the firing sequence. Does that make sense? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 kind of a shit, and they're gonna be getting pushed back to the rear. Sink it down into yourself and don't give the gun the leverage it wants to try to shove you the fuck around. Everybody with me? Now different optics in here, that kind of shit. You'll see I'm running a super high Unity tactical mount for a lot of fucking reasons, primarily NVG based, but it also allows me to sink the gun lower into my body and still keep my head and eyes high because the optic is now at a higher level. Make sense, kind of, sort of? Food for thought. Do not believe the hype about tall fucking mounts. Oh, you're gonna be fucked up if you try to shoot somebody at distance, your mechanical offset's all fucked up, all that kind of bullshit. I have had zero fucking problems, including a 400 point aggregate from 0 to 200 fucking yards, and I'm typically scoring about a 390 on that drill. What do I need to know? My fucking holds, man, and as long as you know your fucking holds with your 0, then you can shoot anything you want. I could put an optic fucking 18 inches tall on this sumbitch, and if I knew how to account for it, then I could absolutely hit shit with it. But I got to get familiar with the stick. Everybody tracking me on that crap? How much pressure am I pulling with the support hand? All of it. I'm bringing everything I can into this motherfucker to pull it back into my shoulder because it's going to provide less bounce the more push I have on the gun. So with my support hand, I'm pulling as hard as I fucking can. How much am I pulling with this? All of it, right? Unlike a pistol where I'll get tremors and shit being induced, I'm trying to tear the pistol grip right off the back of the fucking gun. That's how hard I'm pulling that thing into my shoulder. Everybody with me here? That pulling effect isn't the same as a grip that makes my trigger finger want to hitch the fuck up. I can pull really hard and still have a loose trigger finger. Everybody follow me? So unlike a pistol, I might be able to put more pressure on this than I believe at this point. So we're gonna fuck about with that a little bit. Everybody with me here? Second thing in is your normal fighting man stance type of shit. I am going to shove him as hard as I fucking can. I'm going to tumbleweed his ass all the way back up to that tent. That's how hard I'm going to hit him. Everybody with me with that shit? Your job is to not let you move at all. You ready for it? However you want to get set up. I'm going to take these 5 steps like I fucking mean it. I'm going to shove the fuck out of you. You ready for it? Everybody watching him? Yeah. Yep, so here it comes, man. What did he just do?
Drop down.
Drop down. Look at his feet position because he's still in it. Right, so I was taught toes to target, toes to target. This is not a very effective way to pick up fucking recoil. He automatically opened up that back foot a little bit, right? So as a left-handed shooter, my foot's going about like that because the bulldozer blade gives me better fucking overall support than my toe being pointed at the target. That makes sense? So I'm gonna open it up. The nice thing about this, over the course of my career, started shooting shotguns as a kid, went in the Army shooting rifles, my era of the Army, not so much mount-based bullshit, become a copper. I'm now shooting a shotgun defensively, switch to ARs, go to the SWAT team, go to MP5s, short carbines, all this kind of bullshit. And each time I went through different schools, dudes would tell me different ways to stand and hold the fucking new thing in my hands, right? I'm a weirdo. I've always wanted to stab a motherfucker to death, so I've been in some knife training. They also give me different shit. Don't hate me, it's just a bucket list thing. I ain't stabbed nobody yet, for fuck's sake, right? And so what I found was, my first experience was as a boxer. My dad liked boxing, so me and my brother boxed. But if I was gonna have a boxing match with him, I would kind of set up like this. I can slip punches, move. I can throw my ranging punches, hooks, uppercuts, everything from here. But what do my feet look like? This is the defensive fucking fighting position, right? So from here, my boxing stance, if you put a rifle in my hands, does the lower body still work? How about with a shotgun? How about with an MP5? How about with all those things, right? Doesn't matter what's in my hands. I'm just gonna build a platform necessary to control the weapon that I'm using today. Everybody with me on that crap? Now I'm a 200-pound projectile. You are shooting how heavy of a projectile?
55 grain.
Probably mostly 55 grain bullshit, practice ammunition, right? Maybe some of you guys got the good shit, 64, 77 grains if you got money and shit like that. But I ain't nowhere near my weight. Everybody cracking here? So the way he attempted to get to prevent the 200-pound projectile from hitting him was appropriate for the task at hand. But when I give him a 55 grain push, does he need to be that aggressive, getting down, leaning into it, and doing all some of the shit he was doing? So somewhere less than that, probably for a matter of comfort, would be sufficient to control a rifle. Everybody with me here? The big thing that he did was came forward with his body weight at the waist a little bit. Talked about how his feet are positioned, but what else did he do with those feet right as I was coming in to hit him? Right, starting to do some of that shit, right? Because he knows the shove is coming, so by putting some fucking weight forward, it's going to help prevent me from being able to push him in the first place. So I'm a left-handed shooter, I'm chilling, hey man, do what I say, do what I say. Oh fuck, he's going for it. Right as the gun is coming up, safeties are coming off, I'm going to lean into that thing a little bit and get up on the balls of my feet just a hair to put that weight forward, get ready to get shoved by the gun. Everybody with me on that piece? All right. Last thing, man, this is one of those deals like the nerd in high school, right? And if you were the nerd, I'm sorry I did this to you or your cohorts. But that would be the shoulder check into the wall locker, right? So I'm coming down the hallway, here's the chest nerds, and I'd give them a little shoulder bump to let them know what's up, right? Because I'm a fucking wrestler. Don't be fucking with me, you chest geek. And you guys did that shit? All right, so I'm pulling, leaning into it, doing all that kind of shit, and then right at the end, I'm gonna take my left shoulder, since I'm left-handed, and I'm gonna rotate it around and shove it toward the gun to add a little bit more pressure to it. Back in the day, I got taught to shoot an MP5 kind of like this, right? Gun more centered, right, running my burst and shit like that. With the rifles, you're starting to see guys blade just a little bit more. By blading a little bit more to accommodate the stance, the gun will naturally want to shift off to the left on me. Does that make sense? Pop, 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 because that's the weak side. So by taking my shoulder and throwing it toward the gun a little bit, I'm trying to square the upper body up a little bit more, present more meat to the threat, but it also tightens up my core. So as the gun wants to shove me in that direction, I'm resisting it by just throwing my shoulder at the gun. Everybody with me here? Yeah? All right, ears on real quick. All right, so my objective now, my dot is set. I'm gonna shoot on my target, the bottom B8. I am going to try to keep my dot in the black for a 5-shot string. Does that make sense? I don't care if I hit the black or not. That's not what I'm doing. I'm gonna start with my dot in the middle, not accounting for mechanical offset or that shit yet. Greatest room for error to occur. Dot's gonna sit right the fuck there, and I'm gonna fire a 5-shot string as fast as I can. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I gotta do it at that pace. If I go slower, I'm giving myself a false sense of recoil management. That makes sense? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That also gives me a strobing effect with my dots, so I can see where it's going on the target, and then think about that for a minute. What can I do to prevent it from going up and to the left as a left-handed shooter? I'm gonna throw more shoulder at it and see if that helps. Does that make sense? So I'm gonna fuck with that a little bit. Everybody tracking? All right, so here is me real quick. Everybody, don't worry about the target yet. I'm gonna put my dot on there, or my laser beam on it. My offset isn't being set. I'm just gonna put the dot in the middle. I'm gonna shoot a 5-shot string. Watch me. I did not hit that on purpose, but he shot one yesterday too. Some of you guys have exploders back there. You might get a boom when you're fucking putting rounds to the target, which is hilarious. All right, so watching me, how much recoil control did I just demonstrate to you? Horrible recoil management, right? Now watch the target real quick. We'll see if I can blow another one up. Watch the target, and now watch the dot on it, all right? So the same thing, nice and loose, high stock. I'm not pulling on it, not doing anything to it. Watch what happens to my dots. Everybody see that thing jumping all over the goddamn place? I'm not doing anything. All I'm going to do now is sink the gun so the entire stock is touching my meat. I'm not gonna pull on it yet. I'm not gonna do the shoulder thing. None of that crap, and we'll see if it looks a little bit different, all right? So watch me real quick. Just sinking the gun a little bit further in there. All right, watch the target real quick. Watch the difference on the dot. My bad, I turned it into the bouncy mode. All right, so watch the target real quick. Everybody see a big difference what that dot's doing on the target, right? Not adding anything else into it, just getting the bore down on some meat, just like you're trying to do with your handgun, changes a lot of shit for you. Everybody tracking on what we're gonna do here? So what I want you to do, don't do the bullshit I started with. We know that don't work, right? It's obviously a very extreme example. You're gonna mount the gun like you always do, give me a 5-shot string. If your red dot leaves the black at all, I want you to start thinking about changing some shit up. Some of that change would be, let me try that shoulder shit Blowers was talking about. Put that into it, see if that gives you a benefit. If it does, keep it. Make sense? Another 5-shot string. Yep, that's good to go. My support hand now, I'm gonna pull that fucking gun as hard as I goddamn can toward me, and I'm gonna see if that causes any problems, or does it help stabilize the dot more and keep it within the black. If it does, keep it. If it doesn't, shit can it. I'm gonna pull the fuck out of that pistol grip. Helps keep it, doesn't get rid of it. Think about your stance, get a little bit lower, lean more into it. All those different things that you're gonna experiment with now to give yourself the best overall recoil management that you can possibly come up with over the course of 2 magazines. Everybody with me here? You have to fire them at that pace. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's not an accuracy drill. It's a recoil management drill, and it's a vision drill because I want you to be able to see what's happening with your dot. So you're working on two things right now: controlling the gun, seeing what's happening with the dot, and then doing something to counter whatever the fucking dot is doing. If you continue to do the same thing over and over again and expect a different result, what is that?
Insanity.
It's insanity. So don't be a dipshit, right? Change shit. For all you guys, right? There ain't like no super young guys in this class. You've been shooting these rifles a long time. Is it possible you've developed bad habits?
Yes.
Is it possible that you've gotten lazy on your stance because you're still shooting at a very high level? The answer is yes to both those questions. So let's figure out what we need to do, and maybe we forgot something along the way that we're not doing anymore, and let's refigure out what that thing was that was helping us. Everybody, Kurt, we're doing? You're gonna engage one B8 only. Keep on that same one for 2 full magazines. 2 full magazines. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Changing shit as you go. Try some wild shit, man. Kurt, we're doing 10-yard call, man. Let's bang it out. That's the pace right there. I'm only stopping you because a couple of you guys are giving me different fucking impulses on the gun. Some of it sounds like this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You're giving yourself a false sense of recoil management because it's easy to control a gun shooting at that speed. Does that make sense? You have to give them to me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Some of you guys are giving me something that sounds like this: 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. 1, 1 type of shit. It has to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Just send them, man. I don't care what they're hitting at this point as long as they go in the berm. Your objective is to watch the dot, so don't worry about shooting the fucking target right now. It's not an accuracy drill. Everybody clear? So if it starts to move away from you during that 5-shot string, I want you to keep pulling the trigger so you can get an idea of where it went. Then you can do something to counter what you just saw happening versus stopping in the middle of the string, guiding it back into the center, and then starting again. Everybody track them here? That would be a smart way to have a gunfight, but that's not what we're trying to do right now. Everybody clear what I'm trying to get to you? Bang it out, finish up.